We got Bradley Martyn in the building, ladies and gentlemen. I'm calling him right now, and we're going to be having a conversation with him. We're going to pick his brain about Donald Trump. How much do you weigh right now?
Honestly, 255 right now. I lost my.
Frail, dude. Oh my God.
Why do you have so many Zyn containers behind you?
What do you mean? I love Zyn. I slam those bad boys daily.
Yeah, look at us relating, bro.
Wait, so you're no longer relating. You're no longer 260. You're looking kind of frail right now.
Dog, come on. How much you weigh, bro?
I've lost so much weight since the last time you saw me. I'm 225 pounds, actually.
Oh, yeah, that's small. You'll be good, though.
I was at your gym mogging people, dude. I was showing my abs and it's almost there.
You're definitely tall. I don't know about mogging people.
No, I was mogging them, dude. People were like, damn, this guy's brolic. This guy's yacked out of his goddamn mind. Yacked to the gills. They were like, they were reconsidering their Trump support, which brings us to our main point of contention. You wanted to talk to me about supporting Donald Trump. I saw you tweet about how Kamala is not going on Joe Rogan, and that's all you need to know about that. That's what you said, something like that, something ominous.
Yeah, why didn't she go on it? Why do you think?
I think for two reasons. One, because I don't think she's capable of having the same telegenic energy that Donald Trump has for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably a big concern. And then I guess like another concern probably was that like, you know, Joe Rogan did endorse Donald Trump at the end of it. And she probably thought that it was going to be hostile territory in the way that like, not in the same way that like the Trump Joe Rogan conversation went.
You don't think he would ask her objective enough questions? You thought he would attack her?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that's the campaign's calculation. I think I said it over and over again. I think that like Kamala Harris, like Joe Rogan, I think is a chameleon in many respects. Like that's why he's a good interviewer. That's why people like him. Unless you touch on, and I say this as like a former massive Joe Rogan stan, right? I have his mug and everything. I met him in 2016. He probably doesn't remember. We had like a 3-hour conversation back when he was a TYT fan. But I think unless you broach 3 subjects, Joe Rogan is going to be very nice to you, right? You can't come at him and be like, I don't like weed. I don't with weed, because he's going to get all debate mode on you if you say some like that, or COVID, right? Those are like the 2 major things, or I guess like trans women in sports too. Like those are the 3 things. Outside of those 3 things, you can talk to Joe Rogan about anything, and he's going to be the nicest guy to you. Like you could have like a radical, you could have someone from like Hezbollah talk to Joe Rogan, and he'd be talking about how Shia Islam is the real way, the real method, you know? Like he will always be very conciliatory in conversations. So for that reason, I think that it would have been a good conversation regardless, and I was looking forward to it. But I think even if it wasn't Kamala Harris, like there's a lot of really great surrogates that could have gone on Joe Rogan. Bernie Sanders was a surrogate for the campaign. That would have been a great move. Tim Walz, Kamala Harris' vice president, is also fantastic. Like Joe would have love Tim Walz. If Tim Walz went on Joe Rogan, I don't think he would have endorsed Donald Trump. Like, I'm not even kidding.
Interesting. Yeah. But I think part of the problem with that whole campaign, it seemed like the Democratic Party seems to have got so far away from majority, like the massive majority of people. So like when you say that, I agree. You could have other people that could have went on the show, but it wouldn't have had the same effect to the people watching, thinking like, oh, this is just another iteration of why I don't buy into this person as the president, because like you even just said it, someone else better could have gone on and helped her case. But I think people are like, I don't know, like moving away from that in a sense of like, they want to hear from her. They want to know who she is, not just like what.
For sure. The problem is Kamala Harris is she just like usually comes across as like kind of inauthentic, and also you can do that, but you can also have like good policies to make up for that. Because if someone is like maybe coming across as inauthentic, they could still make a solid case as to why you would vote for them if they were like, I see you, I hear you, I recognize where you're hurting, and I'm going to help you, right? If they say that, then people will be more understanding towards them, even if they don't have the charisma. I think Donald Trump, for example, does a very good job on the charisma front and is very telegenic, but rambles on all the goddamn time, which he calls weaving. Even Joe Rogan called him out on it and made fun of him a little bit to his face. That was kind of funny. But despite his weaving, like he has the telegenic presence to keep up like a 3-hour conversation, even if it's like devoid of any sort of like intellectual rigor, you know? Because I mean, he was just talking about crazy. She was like, oh yeah, windmills are killing all the birds or something.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying, but don't you think like being able to have that sort of conversation is important for a president, whether like it gets off to some tangent or not, right?
No, I think that, I mean, it's good to showcase yourself as like a real person for sure.
Yeah.
I'll tell you like this. If someone was like the most low functioning socially, and this is a antiquated term now, but if someone was like autistic, right? And they were low socially functioning, I think, or high needs, or I think that's the new term for it. Anyway, whatever. If they were like that, but they had some banger policies, they were just like constantly advocating for healthcare for all, I'd be like, I don't give that this person is not the best communicator. I don't care that they don't come across as personable, because like I agree with their policies, because at the end of the day, that's what I care about. I don't want to have beer with a politician.
So why do you
politician to advance my interests?
Why do you think people got so disconnected then with the Democratic Party in this whole cycle?
They don't address the needs of the population ever. I think that there is an idea within the Democratic Party where they personally think that, we just have to keep defending these institutions on the principle that they must exist at a time when a lot of people are suffering. I mean, wage growth has not outpaced inflation, right? So now the amount of money you have in your pocket buys less. So if you're experiencing that, you don't give a about the institutions. You know what I mean? Oh, wow. I can't believe we have to defend civility. Like, who gives a I'm burning. My wallet's burning. I don't give a So I think that was a major problem with the Democratic Party, like not directly addressing the issues that people were experiencing. They could have communicated it better, because like at the end of the day, there was a global pandemic, right? The global pandemic disrupted supply chains that were already pretty fragile due to, profit motives that were slated to be devastated with like any kind of change, any kind of shift. But this was a massive, massive disaster that caused a global inflation crisis. And all things considered, the American government, I think, in comparison to like our European counterparts, did a better job overall, but that's still not enough. And even if it wasn't for the inflation or the economy rebounding, as nerds like to talk about all the goddamn time, people were still angry in 2016 and there was no COVID. You know what I mean? People were so angry in 2016 that they said you to Hillary Clinton and voted for Donald Trump the first time. So they just refuse to recognize that. Like a lot of people, I think, that I talked to, and I talked to campaign staffers, I talked to people in DC in private conversations, and I used to think like they're just cynically serving the same corporate masses that the Republican Party cynically serves. And I am shocked when I come to the recognition that they're just in a bubble. They only talk to lobbyists, and this is the same for the Republicans too, mind you. But they only talk to lobbyists, and their worldview is just like so far removed from the pain that Americans in the Rust Belt are facing, Americans all around the country are facing in general. So that's the issue. There's a crisis in communication, and there's no interest in like addressing the underlying material harm that people are subjected to, and then they just panic and point the finger at blame at other people. They'll be like, oh, it's just...
And so that's the thing that I notice the most, like trying to look at things objectively, because obviously I lean more right, but I try to watch as much content as I can. And it seemed like anytime I would try to watch something about Kamala, it was just about how Trump was just such a bad guy. And for whatever reason.
To be fair, Trump is a bad guy. I do believe that. That's the other thing, right? I think Donald Trump is not a good person. I think he is a bad guy in like the most...
Question though. Do you think anyone is a good person in politics, actually?
I like Bernie. I don't agree with him all the time, but I still like him. I think.
So do you think Kamala is a good person at her core? Do you, like, I have this problem. I have this problem with the political spectrum in general, or is like, at the end of the day, I don't think any of these people are like the best people on the planet, but I do think Trump spoke more directly to like most people's and like what majority of people were dealing with as far as heartache or like pain points. And I think they went towards that in a smart way. I just think like
he spoke to the anger. He spoke to the anger and resentment that people felt, but he redirected that anger and resentment to not the appropriate vector, right? So the real problem is the economic circumstances that we exist under is very corrupt. That's it. It's just like pure corruption. I might call it capitalism, but the reality is just everyone is serving corporate masters, right? You go on MSNBC, CNN, or even Fox News, and they're representing certain interests, certain powerful corporations and their interests, because they're buying millions of dollars of ads. They have a ton of PR people that go on there and speak on issues as though they are objective random people. And then you look at their background and you're like, God damn, like this motherfucker is literally a lobbyist for Raytheon. Of course he's talking about what kind of missile systems Ukraine needs to get, because he's a lobbyist. Like, he's not just a former general. That motherfucker there's a missile salesman, you know? And I think everybody does that to a certain degree. And ultimately, Americans' interests never get represented. One side, on the other hand, at least acknowledges that people are angry. The Republicans do. But then they say, you're not angry because we're spending all this money in fucking wars overseas instead of fixing your goddamn potholes and making sure that you have better internet, making sure that, you know, there aren't 600,000 homeless people that are sleeping outside tonight, right? We're wasting all of our money on this. Instead of saying that, Republicans do what? They say, you know who's the problem? All these immigrants that are coming in. You know who's the problem? It's the Democratic Party. They care too much about trans people. Like, the Democratic Party didn't even talk about trans people once this election cycle. It was just Trump that talked about trans people. Couldn't get it out of his goddamn mouth. He couldn't stop thinking about trans people. So ultimately, it's like,
trans people. What are you talking about? Trans people in sports? The sports thing?
Everything. He's just like, Kamala Harris wants to give bottom surgery to undocumented trans prisoners or some shit. And it's like, okay, that's like a normal medical procedure. You might not agree with it. It doesn't really matter. It's neither here nor there. You're at that point, you're cutting $10 million worth of ads in like Texas specifically to dunk on like eight migrant trans people, which I think is like so insane. Like, who gives a dude? We're not transing the youth, right? It's like not a problem that harms or benefits any of us. And I think that they have a very good way of just like making you pay attention to certain so you just never pay attention to who's actually robbing you blind.
Well, there is definitely something to say as far as, because I asked this question. I did the pod with Matt Walsh recently on Full Send, and I asked him somewhere towards the end of the pod, does this ever really change, no matter what hand it is, left or right hand, and no matter what is the candidate, who is the candidate, doesn't matter. Does the United States ever really ultimately change? Because it seems like we're talking about an overarching thing that is just innate in humans, which is like a sense of greed and wanting more for themselves versus another person. Because like, are we ever going to make humans not want more than the next person so much more that they're willing to do whatever it takes, whether it's start a war or be involved in a war or to fund a war? Do you ever think we actually avoid being in that case, or is that just too ingrained in what the United States has become as far as its power?
I don't think it's in our DNA just as much as like it's assuming that selfishness and greed is inherent to human nature is, especially under the current order of business, is forgetting that like so much of mankind existed without capitalism. But beyond that, right now, there is still so much peer-to-peer collaboration that we just take for granted. You have families, you have communities, right? Like, you have people that are constantly collaborating with one another. And it's not always on the virtue of greed. It's not always on the basis of greed and wanting more. People just do for one another. It's not our natural state is not to always be in a state of conflict. Our natural state actually is just as conciliatory with one another as it is directly adversarial to one another. We just live under a system that makes it seem like it's zero sum and that it's we got to constantly dominate other people. And I think that's, the sad state of affairs, and both parties certainly contribute to that. But I would ask Matt Walsh this question, really. Like, there's I think it was like 1% of the population is trans. Like, if they all were no longer trans, if you like forcibly were like, I don't want a single doctor to perform the surgery, if you just like forcibly reversed their decision and said no more HRT for you, right? And as people who have both taken different kinds of HRT, yourself and myself, I think, we don't exactly have that much of a problem with people doing hormone replacement, right? Like, I take minoxidil, which is a DHT blocker. You may or may not have taken some other form of hormone replacement therapy.
It's true. Yeah.
But ultimately, like, if we were to stop that, right, dead in his tracks, we're like, no more. These medical professionals are woke. They were in the pocket of big woke, big trans. They were doing this for nefarious purpose. We got to stop it. Let's say we stop it. Did you put more money on your table? Did you put more money in your pocket? More food on your table? Did you get a better means of shelter? Did we actually solve the homelessness crisis? No. It's a fucking simple distraction. That's all it is. But it's one that I think tracks with a lot of people because like they get constantly pummeled, bombarded with this. And you go, man, this is like everything that everybody's thinking about all the time. And it's like, no, it's just people like Matt Walsh thinking about it all the time. Like, it doesn't do anything. It's just like, that's why I liked Tim Walz a lot, Kamala's VP pick, because he was like, mind your damn business. Who gives a You know, calm down. We gotta feed hungry children. We got mouths to feed. And he did that in Minnesota, and he was really good in Minnesota for that reason. So I was actually a little bit encouraged by that pick originally from the campaign, but they silenced my man. They backpocketed him. They were like, nope, none of that woke shit. They were like, don't talk about feeding the poor. It's not good.
What do you think makes all this shit better? Because also actually scratch that question. I'm curious about since obviously the announcement, everyone's saying they're losing their rights. What's going on with this? Who's losing their rights? What rights are being taken away?
The rights stuff is, I mean, it's pretty valid. So Donald Trump, when he was in office, he appointed 3 Supreme Court justices. They all went in front of Congress, right? Because they do like these judicial hearings in the Senate Judicial Committee. And they do these hearings where they're like, what are you going to do? What is your background? Do you have any blackmail on you? That sort of thing, right? And in that process, all 3 of them actually lied to not only the American public, but to everyone in Congress, where all 3 of them said that Roe v. Wade was the super precedent, law of the land, we're not changing it. Now, the reason why they said that was because Roe v. Wade was incredibly popular, 75% support historically. Most people, even pro-life people, were like, I'm pro-life. I wouldn't get an abortion personally, but I don't think the government should interfere in that, right? Because there's a litany of complications when you start putting legal hurdles that are unnecessary in front of this like fairly routine medical procedure. And they all lied and said they would never overturn it. And then they did. Lo and behold, they did that under the Biden administration. And a lot of people, specifically women and people who care about women's bodily autonomy, were very frustrated by that because now you have things like the horrible situation that occurred in Texas, like literally a week before the election, where an 18-year-old wanted to get an abortion because she had an ectopic pregnancy, right?
What is that?
And an ectopic pregnancy is basically when the baby's dead, like the fetus is dead, it's non-viable, and it's like dying inside of you. So it's like poisoning your blood, and you die. If you don't get a medical abortion in that situation, you just die, right? So this person had to go to 2 emergency rooms, and it was far too late by the time she got to the 3rd, where someone was like, all right, we'll do it. Like, we'll do the ectopic, we'll do the abortion for you. And she died. And this happens now all across the country. These needless deaths are happening all across the country because doctors are terrified of criminal prosecution. Like, you know, these states are openly saying that if a doctor gives an abortion to a person, then they might be criminally charged with facilitating a murder. And that's a really devastating predicament, right? That's a real violation of people's civil liberties and a real violation of their bodily autonomy. So understandably, people were very frustrated by that.
But I've heard in Donald Trump specifically speaking to abortion rights being like for the life of the mother and some other special circumstances where it's like he believes it's okay.
So Donald Trump says that now, and that's because everyone got mad at him. So he was like, oh, I did abortion. And then he was like, oh, just kidding. I just want the states to decide, right? Which is a cowardly way to do it. And kind of an old trick, actually. I mean, that's what the Confederates said when they were like, we just want states' rights. And then you'd be like, states' rights for what? And they'd be like, to own slaves, right? So like the states' rights argument in this situation, when it's like profoundly popular across the entire country, including every single red state where abortion protections are, you know, over 50% approval, over 50% popular, including but not limited to the state of Florida, for example, where the abortion measure didn't pass, the constitutional amendment in the state of Florida, this past election didn't pass, but it didn't pass not because it wasn't unpopular. It didn't pass because the state of Florida made it into law that you have to get above 60% to actually have something enshrined to change, to make a constitutional amendment. The abortion provision got 57%. Now tell me if that's democratic. I don't think that's democratic at all.
But isn't he still saying the states would then decide if they could have the free reign on abortion? Right.
Yeah.
So wouldn't the states where most people are aligning and agreeing with that be where that's happening? For example, California, et cetera.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because like there's still a ton of red states where every single red state that had abortion ballot measures, including Ohio, actually said, no, we don't want to talking about. We don't want to actually limit abortions like that at all.
So then wouldn't they just vote and then that would just be the case?
They did do that, and many states did, but it still doesn't matter because some states, like Kentucky, for example, turned around and still said, nah, I don't care about the fucking constitutional amendment. I don't care about the ballot measure. I'm still prosecuting it. I'm still doing criminal charges. So I guess the question I have for you is like, why fix it if it ain't broken, right? So if every single state in the United States of America was already ready to, as you know, studies have shown over and over again, because this is a broadly popular initiative, if every single state was already interested in protecting abortion, why the did Donald Trump's Supreme Court do that? I can tell you why they did it, but you know, why do you think they did it?
If every state was already, well, then wouldn't that just be the answer moving forward? That's what would happen, is what I'm saying. Because from what I understand is...
Yeah, but states are still adding unnecessary hurdles in front of the democratic process. There, in Ohio, for example, they actively tried to get it off the ballot. Like they literally were trying to change the law in the state of Ohio so that you couldn't get this ballot initiative because they wanted to stop the democratic process from being implemented. So that's the problem.
To keep abortion?
No. To keep the ballot, to keep the provision off the ballot.
To vote.
Yeah, so that people couldn't vote on it to defend abortion. Yes.
I see.
Yeah, so they do a lot of stuff like that. It's like a lot of little tricks here and there. For example, one of the things that they used to do under Roe v. Wade in red states was called trap laws. So they would add unnecessary red tape. Like they would be like, oh, if you want to have a medical clinic that can provide an abortion, you have to have hallways that are like, you know, this length, like really silly like that. Unless you like dive deeper into it, you don't really you don't really immediately comprehend it. But the sole purpose of that is to like limit the amount of abortion facilities that exist in the state because they just don't want women to get abortions. I mean, it's pretty crazy, right? Like, what the fuck? This is a medical process. You don't have an issue with abortion, I assume, right?
I mean, I'm not really so worried about it in that case. But my question is still like in regards to losing a right, what rights are being lost? I mean, if the states are able to vote and people are able to vote.
Well, that's the problem. The very fact that it's like now, before the voting process occurs, I believe, I don't know the exact number, but I think it's like 30 plus states that already had like automatic trigger laws that immediately criminalized it. And in states like Arizona, they went a step further. Before Arizona was even a state, okay, they had some antiquated ass law from like 1867 or some shit. Okay. And they were like, the Arizona State Supreme Court was like, we are going to implement this insane, antiquated law to try and stop people from getting abortions. So it's not like they go, oh, yeah, well, I guess I'll respect democracy. No matter how much Donald Trump says that, that's just lip service. Politicians lie at the end of the day. Democrats lie too. And this is just the way that the Republican Party lies. The ultimate goal is to still limit what women can and can't do, what kind of medical decisions they can take. But they will, of course, massage it. They can't just be like, I don't want you bras to get a abortion. You shouldn't have around. I don't like that. They can't say that openly. So they just got to be like, this is because life must be preserved. And that's why we're doing this. You know, it's just a lie.
I wish I knew more details as far as like how the actual process went in the states and the voting for it, because it just seems like I don't know nothing.
I can dive deeper into it if you want. I'm fairly knowledgeable. I mean, I'm pulling this shit off the top dome right now, but
I feel like you're looking at a computer and you're
no. I mean, I'm on stream, but the only thing I pulled up was the ectopic pregnancy for chat to see when I was talking about it, like what an ectopic pregnancy is.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're having a good day then, huh?
Not necessarily. I feel like, I mean, I wasn't going to have a good day regardless of whether Kamala Harris won or Donald Trump won, but it's, I guess, a worse day overall now that Donald Trump has won, because
what actually gets worse? What actually gets worse?
Yeah. So if Kamala Harris had won, it would be business as usual. And I think that the very same problems that exist that have gone unaddressed would continue to not be addressed, and people will get more and more angry. And the next time around, it wouldn't be Donald Trump. It'd be someone even more dangerous than Donald Trump, most likely, right? But with Donald Trump winning the election, I mean, he has campaigned on a lot of promises that are really, really damaging to the country. On the economic agenda, he consistently says he wants to implement tariffs. Now, I am a leftist, so I'm not immediately anti-tariffs. I use American manufacturing when I do my merchandise. I get it from union shops in the United States of America. Those are the people that manufacture my garments that I use for my merchandise. I don't know where you get your merchandise from, but I can give you one example of why Donald Trump's economic policies are going to be harmful to you directly. I assume you don't get it from America.
I get it from multiple different, some from America, Some from Pakistan, some from China. It depends.
So the ones that you're getting from China, Donald Trump wants to institute a complete tariff on all goods coming from China. So the way tariffs work, and I don't know if you've ever broached in this territory at all, but like the way tariffs work is that it doesn't actually harm the Chinese manufacturers because they're not paying for it. It's basically a entry tax that you, when you're purchasing those goods from China, are going to be paying for it. Now all of a sudden that harms your bottom line. That harms your profit margins.
Is it that simple though?
Yeah.
I don't think it is. I don't think it's that straightforward.
No, tariffs are pretty cut and dry. It's just basically when you say you're implementing a tariff, all the goods that you're purchasing from the country that has a tariff, or all whatever the goods are that have tariffs on them, you at the point of entry have to pay a fee, the additional fee. You're paying the tariff as an American.
So you don't think that there is then any need or competition that could be created in this scenario where, let's say, for example, now, because as a business buying products overseas, it's too expensive, so I don't buy it there. You don't think there's any sort of initiative for example, China, right? For China to compete in a manufacturing area, which is the world, and mainly sending products to the United States. You don't think there's any initiative for the Chinese government to subsidize those companies so that they are able to continue business here overall?
No, they haven't done that. They usually just institute a trade war. They did this with soybeans, where they were like, oh yeah, you're slapping tariffs on steel that is coming from China. Okay, we're doing it on, like, it just basically kickstarts the process of trade wars. Now, what is supposed to happen, what tariffs are for, is trade protectionism. So, like, that's the reason why I said I'm not immediately anti-tariff, right? Let's say you have a dormant manufacturing business or a sector that you actually have the raw material for here in the United States of America, but American manufacturers have decided that it's much cheaper to get it from China instead, okay? But you got all these jobs, you got all these facilities, and you got all this raw material that's ready to go, ready to rip, right? In that circumstance, it makes sense because your goal there is to shut off Chinese goods from being imported so that American manufacturing thrives. That means more American jobs, higher paying jobs overall. That'll still have an inflationary effect, certainly, because American manufacturing is going to be more costly. But overall, I think that there is an economic benefit to that. Now, instituting a wholesale tariff, on the other hand, from all goods coming from China, when you have no competitive manufacturing industries that will make up for the additional lack of supply, is going to simply make it more costly for the people that are still going to get it from China and then pay an additional tax to the government. Now, you're going to pay that tariff, and now you still want to maintain your profit margins. So what do? You carry that cost onto the consumer. If the price of the t-shirt when you're purchasing in bulk is like $10, but now you actually have to slap on an additional $5 back, like a kickback to the government, now your bottom line is going to be $15 a pop. So now what do? You raise the cost of the t-shirt by $5. You want to maintain the same profit margins. You still have people that you've hired. You still have salaries that you must pay. So all of a sudden, now, for the consumer, that t-shirt is going to be, if it was $15 to begin with, that t-shirt is now going to be $20. That's a $5 increase. That's inflation.
It's inflation just because they increase the price, but that's not inflation on people's money and their buying power. I guess it's because it costs more.
Inflation is in the cost of this consumer good has gone up. It is inflated.
What do you think a better way to do it is? And also, too, I don't know enough about this tariff stuff to really speak on it, but I was under the impression that if a country is losing its ability to sell from a specific sort of industry, that it might try to be more competitive with that industry. And I figured like maybe there'd be some sort of fallback or blowback to the country to maintain it within the space, like to be able to continue to compete in that space.
Yeah, that's the point. Tariffs are trade protectionist policies, and that's why I said I'm not entirely against tariffs.
Yeah. So you just think it's gonna. You think if that's not going to happen at all, they're just going to cost more for us?
What's not going to happen? Do I think that there will be a manufacturing boon for American goods providers? So yes and no. I don't think that it will cause a manufacturing boom. I think it'll just simply be additional costs that are offset by being carried over to the consumer, and will be inflationary for that. It will be immediately inflationary for that reason. And the reason why is because there's a ton of like raw material, for example, that we just have to export, that we just have to get from China. We just don't have it, right? Or refined materials that we have to get from China. And then now you just put on a tariff and there's no like domestic manufacturing equivalent. Now what are you going to do? It's a really cynical way, I think, to universalize taxes. It's almost like a flat tax. It's inherently regressive. In the sense that like everyone is going to be paying for it. So I think it's a way to try to generate revenue off of the American working class. And I suspect he's doing that because he wants to cut taxes even further, so that in order to make up for the additional taxes cut, you got to generate revenue somewhere. And that revenue, I think, will come from Americans paying the additional prices.
Man, it
is a very tricky way to basically cut taxes for the rich and make the poor pay for it. It's a very
how is it cutting taxes for the rich if rich have to pay? You got to pay more.
Because the rich aren't paying because the rich don't pay for the tariffs. The rich pay for the tariffs and then they carry that cost over to the consumer. They're going to keep their profit margins the same. That's why I described the $10 t-shirt now as $15. But for the consumer, if the t-shirt was originally $15, now it's $20. So their profit margin remained the same, but people are paying more for it.
Where do you think this actual money problem gets fixed? Not in regards to tariffs or the stuff we're speaking to now, but just with the government in general and how like the inflation is really more so based on the printing of money and just the misuse of our money. And do you think that ever actually changes? Like, because that's got to be like if we're talking about the thing that's causing the most inflation is like the printing of money. Obviously, what we're talking about now is like going to cause inflation on the consumer side. But
there's two different ways to combat inflation. You have monetary policy and you have fiscal policy. The problem is fiscal policy happens at the legislative level. And a big part of the deflationary mechanism on fiscal policy, monetary policy is just printing money, like you said, right? Fiscal policy, on the other hand, can be inflationary fiscal policy or deflationary fiscal policy. Deflationary fiscal policy would be more taxes. And everybody in America is immediately resistant to that. They hate that. And besides that, Congress is always gridlocked. Republicans operate on an obstructionist policy and they don't even get punished for stopping certain bills from passing. So, and then even lie about bills that they actually never voted for when, like the IRA or whatever, they openly were antagonistic to the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act. And then that actually secured some funding for their constituencies. So they went back to their constituencies with like, I brought this money to you. They lied. They actually fought against it, and they fought to ensure that more money didn't even go back to their constituents, but then they still took credit for it. So that's just one way that they lie. And another way that they operate is just simply by obstructing and refusing to vote into law anything that could potentially help the American workforce.
All right, that didn't answer the question though. I'm saying, what do you think is the thing that is actually going to fix this?
Fix what?
Like
inflation?
The government spending bullshit.
Well, this is actually one aspect of the Kamala Harris campaign that I agreed with quite a bit. She said that she would utilize pre-existing law in the form of price gouging against some of the worst offenders that unnecessarily increase prices. And she said she would go after grocery chains specifically. Right. I think that another way to do that is by tackling commodity production in its entirety. So our agribusiness in the United States of America is heavily subsidized by taxpayers. So we do that in order to keep prices low. But we never actually demand anything in return from our agricultural providers. We never actually demand that they like keep prices actually low or not go above a certain point or even increase supply in times of need. So I think that the American government is giving billions of dollars to these corporations. They might as well demand something in return, which would be to lower prices.
Why doesn't that happen? That's a question. I'm just like, does this shit ever actually
The reason why it doesn't happen is because when Kamala Harris said, I'm going to tackle price gougers, I'm going to go after people who are, engaging in the act of price gouging, which is to increase the prices unfairly without any sort of quote unquote market conditions. That's a really difficult subject to broach in general. Like, how do you regulate that? But that's besides the point. Just simply saying you're going to do that is good because the fear of that will cause companies to lower their prices and maybe eat away at their profit margins a little bit, which is a good thing. They should do that. But overall, the reason why it doesn't happen is because, well, one, Kamala Harris didn't get elected. And two, I don't even know if she would have pursued that policy, even if she was elected. But if she were to pursue that policy, then you got tens of billions of dollars in the grocery store business, including but not limited to the Walton family, right? That would come after you and probably drone strike your ass for hurting their bottom line because, once again, both parties are beholden to their corporate benefactors. They serve the same masters.
And so this is what I keep talking about. Does that ever shift? That's what I'm saying when we talked about the greed earlier, just in general. When no matter what party, no matter what person, do you ever really even shift it? Because if it's not this person, it's that person. If it's not that person, it's this person. Then it goes every 4 years. It's a different cycle. It's the same sort of thing, nonstop.
Yeah, it doesn't. It only gets worse. And that's how we arrive at the condition that we're in right now, where many people in our generation feel like their future prospects are worse off than the generation that came before them. And there's good reason for that. Cost of housing is completely out of control. It is skyrocketed unimaginably. And people just simply do not feel like they could ever own a home. And there's understandable that they feel that way. They feel like they will never be able to retire. They feel like they never will have even a nest egg to, purchase some luxury commodities, some goods on the side to make themselves feel a little bit better. So, that is the reason why people are struggling right now. That is the reason why people are very angry.
Does it get you excited at all that Elon Musk is in the office? You absolutely hate him.
I don't like Elon Musk at all because
really?
Remember what I talked about in terms of the billions of dollars of taxpayer-funded subsidies that these corporations get?
I'm assuming, he's going to get some. Sure.
He has been getting some. He's been getting some from the Biden administration. He got some from the Obama administration, and he certainly got some from the Trump administration. As a matter of fact, those billions of dollars of subsidies kept Tesla afloat in times where Tesla was about to be insolvent. Tesla was slated to go bankrupt, but the carbon credit swap scheme that was implemented allowed Tesla to basically offset the carbon credits of American car manufacturers.
Yo, change the topic a little bit. Were you view botting yesterday? Because your views were sick.
I don't know if you know this, but we had an election. We had an election yesterday, Bradley. I don't know if you know that. It was kind of like my Super Bowl.
I get it. That was dope, though. I was like, holy.
I mean, I had 100K today, too, and then I got clapped. My stream went down, and then I had to restart it. So now we're sitting at 45.
Damn, that's crazy. Because I tuned in. I was watching you, because I was streaming watching this, obviously, election night. And I was like, nah, this motherfucker's botting straight up.
No. I don't think you can bot on Twitch.
I have no idea.
I don't think Twitch is I mean they do bot like they do like those random like Elon Musk is selling crypto type all the time, but like it would show if I was botting.
Because they show they do this thing, right? Like put a caption around it.
I don't know how they do it. I'm not entirely familiar. I'm too much of a boomer to know what that looks like, but Twitch already has like bot protection. They have a lot of safeguards around that sort of thing. And beyond that, like they shut down those accounts real quick. Like there's accounts sometimes that'll have it'll be like Elon Musk is selling crypto and it has like 45,000 live concurrent viewers and you're like, what the is this? And it's like very obvious. Or they'll post they'll do restreams of iShow speed. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but if it gets better in the next 2 years, are you going to tell the truth or are you going to try to just continue to cuck for the Democratic side?
I will absolutely tell the truth, 100%, but I don't foresee getting better at all.
I hope so. Yeah. I hope that it gets better. I believe so. I want to believe so.
I just know what happened last time Donald Trump was president. Did not get better.
But there's no wars. That was dope.
What do you mean there was no wars? We were still in Iraq. We were still in Afghanistan. He blew up Syria and he killed Iranian general Qasem Soleimani. He threw away the Iran denuclearization agreement. He did a whole bunch of nonsense. He accelerated Obama's drone wars by 400% when he was in office. He did all this stuff. It's just he says he's anti-war and then people are like, oh, I guess he's anti-war. No, he is also very much pro-war. There's no American president that was anti-war. That does not happen. Okay, you get killed if that's where your actual position is. But
they kind of ran on that right now.
I know. It's called lying, Bradley. Politicians do it all the time. And Trump does a very good job at lying. The Democrats are too stupid to lie. Sometimes I'm like,
oh, no, they lie all the time. They lie all the time.
No,
what do you mean?
No, they lie for dumb. They should lie for good. Okay? They should lie and be like, I want to give you health care. They don't even lie about that. Think about how stupid that is. Republicans can say whatever the they want and be like, I love doing peace. I love doing peace. I am the no war candidate. And then they come into power and they do war. And then people are like, but he said he's the no war candidate, so I believe him. Okay. Yeah, Democrats are too stupid. They don't even want to say they're the no war candidate. They don't even want to say that. They're like, no, we love war actually. That's what they're running on, which is so dumb because most Americans are like, well, okay, I don't like war.
But why? But then why do they lie about so much dumb? about like random Trump said. They just lie. They just make it up. Everything
Like
is
what?
someone else's fault.
Like what?
Like all the Project 2025 that he's disavowed multiple times. They
Oh
keep
my
talking about
God,
it.
Bradley. That's the Heritage Foundation. Donald Trump is absolutely going to implement Project 2025. 100p. He already did it. See, look, if you watch my analysis on this, you'll see, I believe, a different perspective. I am not like Project 2025 was something that a lot of people paid attention to. They were like, oh my God, I can't believe that's happening. That's really devastating. And I told everybody at the time, I was like, that's Project 2024. That's Project 2026. That's Project 2023. That shit has been implemented. And it was implemented under the Trump administration, and it was implemented far before the Trump administration as well. It's just a continuation of the Republican strategy to increase the level of influence that they have over the federal regulatory agencies. This has been a long-standing project, just like overturning Roe v. Wade was. That shit was set in motion 45 years ago when the Federalist Society was created. Like, that's not new. These guys have been at this for years and years. They're ideologically committed to doing like this. So, sometimes it'll be 10 years when they can get it done. Sometimes it'll take 30 years. Sometimes in the case of abortion, it took 45 years, if I'm not mistaken. But that's real. The Federalist Society is real. It's a real institution that now is responsible for half of the Supreme Court justices. They all came from the Federalist Society.
Listen, if there's no new wars in the next 2 years, bro, I'm blowing you up.
What do you mean no new wars? Like he's going to continue. Okay, what if he continues the existing wars?
And that's trash too. I think he's talked about getting out of them.
Okay, so do you not think that it's trash that he didn't get out of the existing wars when he took over the administration from Obama?
I mean, I would like there to never be war. I think wars are bullshit, but at the same time, obviously, I know there's this whole
he didn't, right? Like he didn't stop. He just continued troop presence in Iraq. It was limited, but
yeah. But what I'm saying is, right now,
though, doing war in Afghanistan.
Right. And now they're out of it.
What I'm operations too. That's the other thing. America also does covert operations in Africa under the guise of combating Islamic fundamentalism.
I don't know about that. All I know is if he gets out of these two, the Ukraine and the Israel shit, then I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it depends on how he gets out of it, quote unquote, gets out of it, because he has gotten a ton of donations from Miriam Adelson. Miriam Adelson gave him $100 million. Miriam Adelson is the wife of the former Sheldon Adelson, who passed away. Rest in peace. Bozo, R.I.P. Sheldon Adelson, the casino magnate. He was a major Israel advocate, major Israel dick rider, and he actually gave Donald Trump, again, a ton of money. And that's the reason why Donald Trump did a whole bunch of things in the region that escalated tensions to such a degree that October 7 happened. The Abraham Accords, moving the American embassy to Jerusalem, which basically solidified the Israeli occupation of Jerusalem that's contested. It's an illegal occupation of East Jerusalem. He gave the Golan Heights, which is annexed territory from Syria. It's Syrian territory that Israel illegally occupies. It recognized that illegally seized land and said Israel actually owns this land. It was actually so shocking that Miriam Adelson a couple months ago straight up said in a public setting, straight up said, we didn't even ask for Golan Heights and you just gave that to us. So he is 100% super firmly committed to Israel, and I don't think he's going to restrain Israel. I don't think he's going to dial it back at all. Maybe Benjamin Netanyahu, who is Donald Trump's friend, will throw him a bone and make it seem like in the interim period that they're going to lower the casualties in their ongoing genocide. But overall, I think he's going to let Israel go crazy, go nutty mode in the region. But we'll see. I think that they're looking to permanently annex the West Bank. That's what I think they're going to move towards. That's what Miriam Adelson said she wants to do.
They're talking about trying to remove it.
They're going to permanently annex it. Like right now, it's under permanent military occupation illegally, and there's still 2.5 million Palestinians living there. I think that they're going to turn it into Gaza. Like they're going to pummel it and overtake it in its entirety.
Well, will you support Trump if he makes that not happen?
I would be, dude, I don't care who does it. If they stop this ongoing genocide, restrain Israel, deny weapons transfers to Israel, cause Israel to no longer be an apartheid regime. Yeah, I don't give a who does it. Yeah, he would be cherished as a hero in perpetuity. The problem is his financial benefactors don't want him to do that. They want him to annex the West Bank, increasing the stress and increasing the violence that the Palestinian population is subjected to.
Well, hopefully this ages well.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm anti-genocide. I don't give a who's the one who is responsible for it. I don't agree with the shit that Hezbollah does, or I don't agree with the Houthis do in Yemen in their own domestic affairs, but they're standing against Israel as Israel's committing a genocide. So I understand the position that they're engaging in that regard. When they're defending Lebanon from Israel bombing Lebanon and killing children and women and wiping out entire city blocks, then, well, that's a little bit more understandable of a position. I don't care who it is, as long as they can find a pathway towards peace, then yeah, I will be on board with that. Now, that's what a lot of the Arabs in Michigan thought as well, but I just don't think Trump is going to be doing that at all, especially when the Michigan Dearborn constituency is not giving him $100 million to stop the genocide, but Miriam Adelson is giving him $100 million to continue the genocide and to also annex the West Bank.
Man.
Trump is a pretty simple guy, You give him a lot of money, he's going to listen to you. That's it. It's that simple. Most popular politician in Israel. Maybe not in America, but most popular politician in Israel.
I feel like he's the most popular politician in the world.
No, he's not. Are you kidding
Donald
me?
Trump? Oh, no. Bro.
No.
I know motherfuckers in China who say that motherfucker's the man.
What? No. No
I'm
Chinese.
Dead ass.
No Chinese citizen. No unironic, normal Chinese citizen thinks Trump is good.
I play Overwatch with a legit Chinese person from China.
Yeah, give me his fucking info. I'm gonna report him to the goddamn. Give me his info. I'm gonna report him to the goddamn authorities. He's going to a fucking.
What are you, the feds? What the?
I'm the feds for the CCP, baby.
Bro, what the?
I'm taking his goddamn social credit away, disrespecting Xi Jinping like that.
No, that's great. No, they didn't say he was better than him. They just said they think he's the man out there.
They do not think he's the man. In fucking
I don't know, bro. That's what I heard. I heard he was the man. I heard they said he was the man. Straight up.
Crazy.
Bro, like, I'm dead serious. I'm not even saying it like jokingly. Like, I'm literally on the headsets with the guy right here. I talk to him when I play Overwatch. I swear to God. And he's straight from China. I swear, bro.
That's funny.
I'm not even like, I don't give a it's like, it's what it is. But
yeah, I don't think that's reflective of the broader societal attitude towards Donald Trump in a nation with like 1 billion people. But
I'm gonna go to China and check it out for myself, bro.
I want to go to China and check it out too. I gotta find this guy. I'm gonna speak to him, set him straight.
Nah, man. I think he's onto something, man.
I'm gonna report him to the authorities. They're gonna take his gaming hours away. He's not gonna be able to play Overwatch no more.
That's crazy.
Get back to work.
That's crazy. What the fuck?
Get back to the facility right now. We're shipping your ass to Shenzhen.
That's fucked.
Speaking out of pocket like that. Anyway, listen, this has been a wonderful conversation. I hope it was productive. I hope I was able to get you to maybe understand some of the positions where people like myself are coming from when they say Trump is a dire threat to the future of America.
I think it's a good thing, bro. I think you gotta look on the bright side.
Okay. That's an insane thing to say. 20 million migrants in concentration camps. Like, there's some positives to it. Like,
I don't think it's going down like that.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. How about this? I have already said if Donald Trump stops the genocide and actually causes Israel to applies pressure to Israel to no longer maintain an apartheid, no more annexation of the West Bank. Now we have an actual peace negotiation in place. They're like literally going towards full-blown sovereignty, right? I will apologize. I will say, Donald Trump, you're my GOAT. And I would not even have a problem with saying that, right? Now, would you do the same? Would you say, God damn you, Donald Trump, you piece of shit, if Donald Trump, day one, started mass deportations like he said he's going to do?
I never said that I didn't think he would do mass deportations.
Oh, wait, you're saying, but you just don't think it's going to go down like that?
Yeah. I don't think
what does that mean?
Like that. I don't think it'll be that cut and dry.
What do you think is going to happen then?
From what I understand, it's the people within the past 4 years. I don't think it's like he's going to go for people from 30 years. Okay, but
even if it's people in the past 4 years, which is not, but even if it was people in the past 4 years, like, do they constitute any sort of security threat to the United States of America?
I mean, if they don't, then they don't, right? Except the fact that they did come in illegally when
I know, but it's crossing a border. It's normally a civil. It's not like even a felony. I think they increased it to a felony, but originally it was not considered like a major crime at all because it's like jaywalking. Like, I know we make a big deal out of it, but like unless someone that crosses the border is like actually committing a crime, they're not really doing anything bad. Like, they're not harming anybody. They're just working. You know what I mean?
I mean, obviously those cases, yeah. But yeah, it's still like
it's a civil offense, right?
But to still just come in and like my issue is just with the people who are doing it legally, who have been doing it legally or trying to do it legally, and it's
okay. But my point is this: like, if they're not actually constituting a harm, like serious harm, if they're simply here to work, wouldn't it be simpler to process them instead of putting them in a facility, slamming them in there, and then just like kicking their asses out and shipping them wherever?
I mean, yeah, it would be easier, of course, for sure.
Yeah, that'd be beneficial, right? So why is he not doing that? Why is he trying to mass deport them? That's my question.
So that we have a semblance of a country can actually be a country with a border. Without, it's kind of just.
Do you feel like America's not a country right now?
I mean, I feel like for a while I was getting kooky for sure.
But was he getting kooky because of migrants? Like, it's getting kooky for the things that you and I both agree with, right? Cost of living is super high. There's major crises, like in terms of housing market. People can't afford healthcare. It sucks. But like the undocumented immigrants didn't cause that. You know what I mean? They're just regular people. The only thing that they're missing is the proper paperwork.
Right. But doesn't it go back to what you were saying earlier? Like, there are some people within this population of undocumented that are committing crimes, no matter how big or small that number may be.
No. But that's an insanely minuscule percentage. That's not how you do. That's not how you write legislation, right? Like, if your house is on fire, you're probably not going to care about like the color of your curtains. So, or you're not going to care about a match that was lit in that moment, right? So the number of like homicides in this country is very high, but you can't say that you are trying to stop homicides, like trying to put a stop to the mass amounts of homicides in the country by focusing on 29 homicides. People that have done them have been deported, by the way. So, or not deported, they're in jail. So like, if they are only responsible for 29 out of like 10,000 or 20,000 homicides and manslaughter that happen every year in the United States of America, then hyper focusing on that group of people is like insane, right? It'd be like this. It would be like the Amish. Let's say the Amish are responsible for like 29 murders a year. If Donald Trump was like, we really need to solve the crime in this country, and that's why I am putting every Amish under complete surveillance until we figure it out, you'd be like, what do you mean? The fuck are they doing? They kill what?
Yeah, but like the reason why that argument doesn't make sense, it falls apart, is because you're talking about like illegal immigrants that, for all we know, there's many more than are accounted for, right? Like that's the whole purpose. We're talking about people.
Yeah, but that number actually favors me. If you're saying that there's 20 million migrants and the number of murders that they've committed is 29, that means it's actually even less likely for an undocumented migrant to cause crime.
No. I think we're missing each other on this point. What I'm saying is the problem itself is still the fact that there's not a secure border, right? So if there's not a secure border, and if we're saying we're reporting there's 20 million or there's 10 million or 5 million, for all we know, that number could be exorbitantly larger. What I'm saying is, so if you're referencing how many people are committing crimes, you're referencing only the ones that we're knowing that we've counted. We said, hey, this is someone from this region that wasn't here, that is illegal, that committed a crime.
So you're saying that like potentially all of the like unsolved murders that are happening are like
absolutely not. But I'm saying there is a part that you still have to go, okay, this also has to be amended and fixed. Okay. Just so like there's tons of other things.
There's data for this as well, right? Like you look at criminal convictions, right? You look at arrest records and criminal convictions, right? So as far as how many undocumented migrants are responsible for crime or responsible for homicides and manslaughter, you can match that up against like the amount of crimes that are unsolved. If the likelihood of an undocumented immigrant doing crime is like 2 times lower or 3 times lower than the likelihood of an American citizen doing crime, then there you go. It's very unlikely that these unsolved murders are even like these unsolved murders are being caused by like undocumented migrants at all. It's most likely still going to be documented U.S. citizens. That's just how data works.
Let me ask you a question. It might sound crazy. Who do you think should do crime in the U.S.? Undocumented citizens or citizens?
I don't think anybody should do crime. I'm anti-crime.
Certainly not, right? We both probably agree with that.
The argument is like, if they were an imminent threat, if they were just like, if undocumented migrants were just like literally, if Trump was right when he said undocumented migrants are killing 100,000 Americans a year, then yeah, I'd be like, that's not even a normal problem. That's a major problem. We got to do something about that. So my question is, why do you think he feels the need to lie about it so severely so that he can justify his deportation process? if it's not the case, if it's not the truth.
If which is not the case, if it's happening at some crazy rate.
My question to you is like, why do you think Trump lies and says undocumented migrants are doing, unimaginable amounts of crimes if that is not the truth? Why do you think he feels the need to lie about it? Because if it was the truth, if they were actually constituting like a severe threat, he wouldn't have to lie about it. He would just tell you the actual data.
Right.
Don't you think that his argument would be a little bit more hollow if he was like, we're going to deport 20 million people because 29 random undocumented migrants are not a monolith anyway, right? They're coming from multiple different countries, multiple different backgrounds. They all have very different interests, many of which are, just the same normal human interests that we all have. But if he were to try to monolithize this entire group of 20 million people and then justify this mass deportation policy by saying they did 29 murders and homicides, including, drunk driving incidents this past year, people would look at him and go, what the dog, 29? Like, don't you have more serious to worry about? You want to be the president.
Right.
That's why he has to lie. Because when he lies like that, he gets guys like you who are, kind individuals, empathetic overall, to think, well, maybe there's a bunch of fucking crimes that are happening.
You said empathetic overall. I thought you said empathetic. I was hold on a minute.
Empathetic. No,
wait a sec.
Empathetic individuals in general. Yeah. You look at that and you go, well, maybe there's a lot of crime happening that that we haven't accounted for. He probably knows. He was the president.
But still, though, the crime is illegally entering a country. There's still a crime. Like it's not obviously it's not like a fucking
blowing past a stop sign is a crime. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, but that's we go back to the original point, which is like,
okay, but it's a harmless, it's a crime, it's a victimless crime is my point. Like not everything that's a crime needs to be dealt with the most severe penalties. And I think forcible deportation is one of the most severe penalties that someone can withstand. So the crime needs to match the punishment is my point. If undocumented migrants, which are not even like one unit of people with a hive mind to begin with anyway, they're just normal people, they just don't have the proper paperwork. If they're not doing a serious crime, anything beyond like blowing through a fucking stop sign, then they shouldn't be deported. That's crazy to me.
But then we're talking about earlier, like the people who come in legally, like, so it's fuck them?
No, it's not fuck them. They should have an easier access to the United States of America. That pathway to citizenship should be, those restrictions should be eased dramatically. I'm not saying that people shouldn't be processed at all. I'm not saying that at all. I'm simply stating that if that access was readily available to people, then there would be significantly less people that are crossing the border illegally because they would just go through the regular points of entry.
Yeah, so having a wall makes sense.
No, it benefits the cartel that there is no ease of access. Like that's
talking
it.
About to get money paid to fucking traffic people.
Yeah. Carter in my chat said for like 100 years, you just showed up, stayed 7 years, and we're a citizen with a signed name. That's it. Yeah. And that's the other part. That's what makes America great. The irony is America, unlike our European counterparts, is actually way more open-minded to immigration. And like that literally was the reason why America was so fucking sick early on. Like I'm sure at a certain point, your parents came here under similar circumstances. You know what I mean? Like they came here and they got citizenship, depending on how many generations removed you are. Like that's it. And that's what we used to do for people coming over the southern border too. That's why so many Texans will say the border crossed me. Like I didn't cross the border crossed me. And that's the case. That's the reality. And it's hard to envision a world where that is still the reality because it seems so far removed from where we're at now. But that's because of a metric ton of propaganda that you experience, that you see, that you engage with, and then it breaks your brain a little bit, and it causes you to think like, oh man, maybe these guys are actually kind of scary. They don't even speak English that good. What the like, I'm scared. That's where this comes from. It's the fear of the other. And people like Donald Trump.
Do you really think that?
What do you mean?
You really think you think that this comes from the fear of the other, not just the fact that like people just want to feel like their country is not letting just random pull up into it? You don't think that's the reason why?
Well, if the random people that are pulling up to the country is like literally the foundational basis of America, that like just randomly pulled up here and they became citizens, and that's how we started the country, and that's how we did it for years and years and years. But now all of a sudden we're like, whoa, we can't be letting these Mexicans in. Then there's got to be a separate reason for that, no? Because I don't think Donald Trump has issues with like people from Norway coming into the United States of America. I don't think he has said that. He literally has said, I don't mind people coming in from Norway or other countries. I just don't want them to come from whole countries. That's what he said.
He said, "Send me that clip. I want to see that."
Here, I think
I gotta see that shit. It was a news article. So someone said that he said that.
Yeah.
So he didn't say it himself?
I think he might have actually said it like openly, but I don't. The UN Human Rights Office said the comments, if confirmed, were shocking and shameful and racist. The Trump comments were first reported by the Washington Post, which said the nations referred to by Trump also included El Salvador. President Trump referred to Haiti and African nations as shithole countries during a meeting with a bipartisan group of senators at the White House. Bro, he said it in front of Democratic and Republican senators, dude.
Who said he said it though? I want to see it. There's no video of him saying that?
I don't know if there's a video. Why are we having all these people from shithole countries come here, Trump said, according to these people. Do you think it's that far-fetched for him to say that? Be honest.
Yeah, I mean, that just...
You don't think it sounds like him? Come on, man. I've watched so many of his goddamn rallies.
I'd have to see him say that, bro.
I'm a bigger Trump supporter than you, dog. I've watched all of his I know all of his albums. I know his greatest hits. Let me tell you, okay? That sounds exactly like this motherfucker.
Yeah, but unless you know he said that shit, it's just we're just saying it because it's probably on an article on fucking CNN.
Bro, there are literally
don't tell me there's 10 of the articles saying the same thing.
No, there are lawmakers that were taken aback. According to people familiar with the reaction, Senator Lindsey Graham and Richard Durbin had proposed cutting the visa lottery program by 50%, then prioritizing countries already in the system, a White House official said. A White House spokesman defended Trump's position on immigration without directly addressing his remarks. The White House did not even dispute the account.
Wait, what the are you looking at?
I'm sharing the screen. It's a Washington Post article.
Oh, here it is.
The White House did not even dispute the account. I mean, look, this is something that Trump has said things along this line numerous times, so it's not that shocking to me that he said this as well. It wouldn't be a dramatic change of pace from what he has said.
Good old Washington Post, huh?
Oh, come on. I mean, if it was so out of pocket, I'd be like, maybe you're right, you know? Because, yeah, these guys don't love Trump. Well, I guess they do love Trump now because Jeff Bezos was like, don't you dare endorse Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to ask you. That's what I wanted to ask you. What's your take? I thought of this way earlier. We just kept talking. But what is your take on no one giving a literal at all about celebrity endorsements and how hilarious that is? And I think it has to do with the internet.
I like that. No, I like that. I think it's great. But people do give a fuck about it, right? Like, I mean,
you think so?
Did Trump didn't go on? Did you go on? Did you talk to Trump?
Yeah.
So you did.
Yeah.
Okay, you're a celebrity, dog. What the do you mean?
I'm not. So I'm some dude doing podcasts.
What are you talking about?
I'm just doing podcasts.
You literally are the celebrity endorser. Did you feel bad? They said the Nelk Boys, but they didn't reference you personally.
No, I don't care. But listen,
Dana White did not want another bald man
you hated that
to retain glory that night. You know, I saw that. Suspicious.
The bald man hate. No.
Suspicious. That's bald on bald violence.
No, you're stupid. No, I don't mean that. Like, internet age is different. I'm talking about like these mainstream used to be like the Beyoncés and all this. It just seems like people are like, everyone's reaction was like, that's the Diddy list.
I don't give some celebrity says about whatever politician. I think that's lame as hell. But also, don't act like the Republicans did not use the celebrity circuit themselves. They just used the podcast circuit, which in my opinion was more effective in like retaining like genuine loyalty from your audience. Because I think nowadays people probably feel a close and personal bond to people like yourself and myself more so than they do to like Beyonce.
Yeah,
so for that reason, when you have a politician on and you speak to them, your audience is infinitely more receptive to that politician. You have the capacity to humanize them. So that's the other question. If Trump does all this crazy and you have to, say that he sucks for doing that because you said it's not going to go down like that. But what if it does? Are you going to feel bad about it? That's another question.
Yo, can you see my screen?
What is this? Call her daddy? Oh, that was awful.
Okay. When I saw these numbers, that's when I knew that it was over. I'm not gonna lie, as an influencer, when I saw this, 800,000 people.
That was dog.
And then Rogan's, I was like, oh my God, it's game over. That's when I bet a lot of money. The second that I saw that, I bet on Trump winning.
Yeah, no, Joe Rogan's interview, but Joe Rogan's also a much more popular podcaster. He's the #1 podcaster in the world,
Yeah, but the whole world is talking about Kamala, right? At some point, we're all talking about these people, and if there's not that many people going to actually watch it, it's just like, does people even care what the fuck she's saying?
It's because like if Kamala went on Joe Rogan, I'm sure it would have done crazy numbers too, though. Like that's what I mean. But would she have?
It would have for sure.
Yeah, would she have been as like charismatic, as telegenic as like Donald Trump? I don't think so. She is like way more buttoned up. So
yeah.
So I
think,
bro.
I
mean that difference is crazy. Make no mistake. No, Trump pummeled the fucking podcast orbit. There's a lot of articles that are coming out on this. Like, I mean, I know because people reach out to me because they see me as like the counter to all of this stuff on the left, and there is no equivalent. Like Kamala Harris is not coming on my stream. She's not coming on a podcast that I have. You know what I mean? That's not gonna ever happen.
You would never do that? If given the opportunity, would you interview both? Would you talk to both?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah,
especially now, I definitely would. I'd be like, what the did you do? That was a terrible campaign.
Why? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would have done Trump during the election. I felt a little iffy about like potentially doing Kamala Harris. Not that they suggested it, because I feel like I'd be far too critical of her. Like, there's no way I'm not going to be critical of her. And then people are going to say you tanked their campaign or some.
Is that why they told Mark Cuban to shut up for a little bit? Was that real?
No, I can't speak on that. I have no idea. Mark Cuban, I don't really like that much to begin with. So. Like, I don't really. I mean, he's a billionaire first and foremost. I mean, he tries to present himself as like one of the nicer ones, but you know that you ain't slick, Mark Cuban. Not getting past me.
Oh man,
no billionaires. Anyway,
man. Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope that was a productive conversation.
That was fun, man.
Hopefully, we're gonna get. I mean, I don't hope that Donald Trump does these devastating things, but hopefully you'll stay true to your promise. And if the mass deportations happen, I'm gonna check back with you. I'm gonna ask you what your feelings are on it.
That's fine.
All right.
I appreciate your time, brother.
And you're gonna take it to the Nelk boys too. You're gonna tell him like this is wrong. I hope.
And you're gonna have to say sorry when he does what he says he's gonna do.
No, dude, if he ends the genocide and also dissolves the Israeli apartheid state, which is never gonna happen, but if he were to do that, of course I'd kiss his feet. Okay. The do you mean? You
also said for Kamala getting, like, you wanted her to win so bad that you were going to do a nude photo shoot.
No, that was me joking that's how unlikely it is that she's going to win Florida and Texas.
Oh, that got clipped out of context. I just saw that shit on Twitter and I was like, what is this motherfucker talking about?
Is that shocking to you that
Not
something
at all.
I said
Not
got clipped out of context? No, I said it is incredibly unlikely that Kamala Harris wins Florida and Texas. If she did, I would do a tasteful nude photo shoot with no dick. That's what I said.
That's the only part that went viral. Look at, they treat you like Trump. Look at that.
Yeah, I know. People clip me out of context all the time. The difference is like I look at all of Trump's statements and I look at Trump's actions, right? So that's the reason why I don't like Trump. Not because I heard him out of context,
Yeah, I get you. That was dope though. That was sick. I think you should still run that, huh? Your audience will probably with that.
What? No, I'm not doing that.
Come on, bro. You know you want to do it.
And nah. Maybe. We'll see. If Trump stops the Israeli government from doing an apartheid, I will do the tasteful photo shoot. No dick. Tasteful nude. Okay?
All right, bro. Good talking to you.
All right. Bye, Bradley.
Have a good day, brother.
Bye. It was Bradley Martyn, everybody. Owner of the Zoo Culture Gym